Welcome to English Avenue, where you can find life-changing books, powerful stories, and clever strategies to help you speak English fluently and confidently. Today, you will hear one of the most heartwarming and inspirational brand success stories in the world. Did you know that Honda makes over $25,000 every minute? They not only make cars and bikes but also private jets, robots, and even boats. However, the truth is that this story is not about money, rather, it is about a man who encountered rejection, loss, war, earthquake, and bankruptcy, and humiliation. This is the story of Soichiro Honda, a man who changed the world despite having no formal education, a wealthy family, or support. It will teach you why failure is not your enemy, how suffering can shape your future, and that even when the world says you can't, you can still succeed. Read this story through to the end because each chapter will inspire you with hope, motivation, and, most importantly, simple English that you can easily understand. If you enjoy it, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more stories like this one. Early life of Soichiro Honda. He was born on November 17, 1906, in a small village called Kyo in Shizuoka Prefecture, Japan. His family was poor, but they also faced many emotional challenges. His father, Jiaki Honda, was a blacksmith, which meant he used to repair bicycles, kitchen tools, and other metal items. He was also very skilled with his hands, and his mother, Mika Honda, was a weaver who made cloth with her hands. They were a working-class family, and each member put in a lot of effort to support them. Survive, but they had a difficult life. Ichiro had 8 siblings, yes. But 5 of them passed away when they were very young because they were so impoverished that they couldn't afford medicine. As a result, Ichiro witnessed death up close. He saw hunger, pain, and helplessness. Later, in an interview, he stated, "I wasn't afraid of failure because I saw things worse than failure when I was a child." His first love was not a person, it was a machine. One day a strange machine came to his village, something he had never seen before. It was a car. He had never seen one in real life. He was only 8 or 9 years old when he saw that car for the first time. The road was dusty, the engine was noisy, and the driver was proud, but Soichiro was curious. He ran behind the car. He looked at the wheels. He stared at the moving parts. He didn't care about the dust. He didn't care about the noise. In that moment he fell in love, not with the car but with how the car moved. He said later, "I don't remember the color of I can't recall the brand of the car, but I do remember the sound of the engine and the smell of oil, and that was sufficient." Many people believe that being a top student is necessary for success, but Soichiro was not a good student at all, in fact. He failed many subjects and occasionally skipped class to spend time with his father in the workshop. His teachers didn't think he would succeed, and his classmates didn't take him seriously. But what no one saw was that he was learning by doing. He loved machines, engines, and building things, and occasionally he would collect. When Soichiro turned 15, he did something very brave. He saw an advertisement in a newspaper for a mechanic job in Tokyo, the capital city. He had never been to a big city before, and he had no money, no rich uncle in Tokyo, but he still applied. And guess what? He was chosen. The company didn't say, "We'll train you fully." Instead, they said, "You will be an assistant." Soichiro would take old bicycle parts from the street, fix them, build new things, break them again, and learn from his mistakes. You will clean, you will observe, and you will not touch the tools for a long time. But Soichiro said, "Okay." He didn't want a perfect job, he wanted a place to learn. He worked under Art Shokai at a small auto repair shop, and the owner was impressed because Soichiro put in more effort than anyone else. He cleaned the floor, he watched every step, he listened to every sound, and he remembered every detail. He stayed up late to learn more, he read manuals, he asked questions, and he read manuals. Soon, he began to gain attention, and he was given his first opportunity he helped his company win a race at the age of 17 by building a racing car engine. By the time he was 22, he had big plans. Instead of just fixing cars, he wanted to build parts, develop new technology, and launch his own business. He once said, "The best learning is not in books, it's in failure, hands-on experience, and your own passion." And with that vision, Soichiro started taking the first steps toward building his future empire, but life was going to test him many, many times. Chapter 2: Fire, Failure and the Rise of a Dream. After working for many years in the repair shop, learning everything about machines, engines, and parts, Soichiro finally opened his own small company. He called it Tokai Eastern Sea Precision Machine Company. What did his company do? It made piston rings, an important part inside car engines. Every car needs piston rings, without them, the engine will not work properly, so Soichiro thought, if I can build piston rings and sell them to large corporations, then my business will grow. He had no large machinery, no team of experts. Just a small workshop, some simple tools, and his hands, but more than anything, he believed in his dream. Now, let's talk about the reality. Soichiro made piston rings once, twice, and 3 times without any company wanting to buy them, not even Toyota, the largest automaker in Japan at the time, rejected his work, claiming the quality was too low and the piston rings were worthless. Can you imagine that after all that effort, he got nothing? But did he stop? No, Soichiro didn't cry or flee. Instead, he said, "Something powerful is 99% failure." He continued working, tested, failed, and tested again, went to a technical school in the evening to learn more science, and even sold his wife's jewelry to keep the business afloat. He tried more than 50 times to get it right, and after years of arduous work, Toyota finally said, "Yes, we want your piston rings." It was like a dream. Ichiro was overjoyed, grinning, and thinking, now my life will change, now my business will grow. When Toyota gave him a large contract, they said, "We will buy your piston rings in large quantity." Everything was going smoothly, and he began constructing a new factory, hiring staff, and purchasing additional tools. However, life had other plans. And in 1935, as the factory was getting ready, a massive earthquake struck the area, and the building collapsed, breaking walls and machines. People told him, "Soiro, this is a sign. Stop this business and go get a job. But Soichiro said, no, if I stop now, then everything I learned will be wasted. So he started over, gathering scrap metal and rebuilding his factory piece by piece, working day and night with his team to fix everything. Just when things were starting to get better in the early 1940s, World War II broke out, and a bomb was dropped. When one of those bombs fell on Soichiro's factory boom over Japan, everything burned, including his workshop, his tools, and the building itself. The dream he had built twice vanished, and he stood there with tears in his eyes and smoke in the air, but inside his heart, there was still fire. People told him again, you lost everything. You can't start again. However, he responded, success is not about how high you go, it's about how many times you stand up after falling. After the war ended, Japan was in terrible shape. There was no money, no fuel, and no jobs. People had lost everything. Ichiro looked around and saw that people were exhausted, without transportation, and walking miles every day. Even bicycles were too expensive. Then, Soichiro had an old army generator, a device that generates power. He thought, what if I attached this small engine to a bicycle? And he did so, creating the country's first motorized bicycle. It was inexpensive, easy, and quick. Because he believed in accountability, Soichiro chose to name the company Honda after himself. If it fails, he said, I will take responsibility. If it succeeds, the name will remind people that it all started with one man and a big dream. People loved it, and suddenly a new company was born. Honda Motor Company. Within a few years, the small-engine bicycle became popular, and people all over Japan began purchasing it. Honda then began producing larger, more powerful machines, better engines, and the renowned Honda Cub, one of the best-selling motorcycles in history. Chapter 3: From Motorcycles to Cars. Soichiro Honda bravely pursued giants before creating something that was revolutionizing people's lives, a basic motorized bicycle that was inexpensive, quick, easy to use, and ideal for a broken and impoverished Japan after the war, when those without cars were now riding motorized bikes to work. After the motorcycle's success, Soichiro didn't just sit back and relax. Instead, he said something powerful that demonstrated his belief that the value of life can be measured by how many times your soul has been deeply stirred. He wanted to stir the soul of every person in the world. He wanted to go beyond Japan. He wanted to build something bigger, more powerful. Something that would bring hope to their children's daily lives, including delivering food and shopping. He told himself, now we will make cars. At the time, manufacturing cars was not a joke in Japan. There were already large, powerful, well-funded companies like Toyota, Nissan, and Mazda that were selling cars all over the country. As a result, Honda had never made a car before, and engineers and large factories like Toyota laughed at him. Some of his employees even asked, "We are bike makers, how can we build cars?" But Honda looked them in the eye and said, Honda and his team began working on their first car in the early 1960s. They worked in small workshops without air conditioning or even proper floors. It was dusty, noisy, and challenging, but they had passion. Honda worked side by side with the engineers. He didn't sit in a glass office. We are not here to copy others. We are here to create something new. He didn't care how big other companies were, and he didn't care that people called him crazy. He believed in taking risks. He wore a cap, rolled up his sleeves, and got his hands dirty working on every screw, wire, and bolt because he wanted to understand how it worked. He didn't want to copy cars made by other companies. Instead, he wanted to create something new, smaller, more efficient, and less expensive because he wanted regular people, not just wealthy people, to own a car. In 1963, Honda released their first vehicle, the T360, a small pickup truck with a tiny engine. It wasn't a fast sports car or a luxury vehicle, rather, it was a car that sent a message to the world: we are here, and we're different. The engine was smaller than most motorcycle engines nowadays, producing 30 horsepower and reaching a top speed of about 100 kilometers per hour, 62 miles per hour. It was also very lightweight, making it fuel efficient and reasonably priced, costing about 400,000 yen in Japan at the time, or about $1,100. It was primarily intended for small business owners, farmers, and delivery workers who needed something affordable and useful. But here's the twist: Red Honda put a motorcycle engine into a truck and painted it red to make it stand out. No one had ever done this before. Just a few months after the T360, Honda unveiled another surprise car that looked like it came from the future, the Honda S500, their first passenger car. It was completely different from what anyone expected. It had a 531 cm engine that produced 44 horsepower, which was very powerful for such a small car, and it was dependable, cute, and fun to drive. It was strange, new, and exciting, and guess what? People loved it. It wasn't luxurious, but it was dependable, cute, and fun to drive. More than 100,000 units were sold, demonstrating the impact of this vehicle. At a time when Japanese cars were perceived as basic and uninteresting, the S500 demonstrated to the world that Honda was not afraid to be bold. This small sports car wasn't just for speed but also for fun, freedom, and dreamers. It had chain-driven rear wheels, just like a motorcycle, and looked like a toy. At the time, it cost about 459,000 yen, or $1,270, and had a sleek, sporty design with a soft convertible top, round headlights, and a curvy body. The T360 and S500 weren't just cars that moved people. They introduced the world to Honda's spirit: small engines, big dreams, and the courage to be different. Now, for the most significant part of the story, Honda didn't want to stop in Japan. Instead, he looked across the ocean at the United States of America, the home of Ford, Chevrolet, and Chrysler. A small pickup truck with a motorcycle heart, a sports car that felt alive. And people began to ask, who is this Honda company, and what will they do next? Since the U.S. market was challenging and Americans preferred large cars with powerful engines and robust designs, many Japanese automakers were hesitant to enter the country where automakers reigned supreme. However, Honda stood out, stating that, if we can make the best product, we can enter any market. The Honda Civic was introduced in 1972. It was small, inexpensive, fuel-efficient, and, most importantly, dependable. At first glance, it didn't seem like a big deal. It was simple, small, and neither loud nor flashy, but underneath that small car was a big idea: fuel-efficient, using very little gasoline, allowing people to drive for longer periods of time and saving money; reliable, not breaking down frequently, just keeping going and going; affordable, almost anyone could buy it. It was much less expensive than most cars, easy to drive, simple, smooth to handle, and ideal for families, students, and workers at a time when America was going through a because of the fuel crisis and rising petrol and gasoline prices. People needed smaller cars that used less fuel. The Honda Civic arrived at the ideal time and quickly became a huge success in the U.S. People there were shocked to learn that this little Japanese car was superior to many of our large cars. So, Honda had done something amazing. He had entered the world's largest and most competitive car market and won people over. The name Honda was no longer just a Japanese brand, it was now a global symbol of quality, innovation, and trust. The Honda Accord, another masterpiece that followed the Civic, was introduced in 1976. It was bigger than the Civic but still smart and fuel-efficient. And it quickly became a favorite family vehicle in America and Europe. People all over the world began saying, if you want a car that lasts for years, buy a Honda. The Accord became one of the best-selling cars in American history. The name Accord means harmony, peace, and agreement. Honda chose this name because they wanted their car to be in perfect harmony with people and the world, comfortable, efficient, safe, and something that just felt right. That's exactly what it became. When the Accord was released, it surprised people once more, just like the Civic did. It was fuel efficient, even though it was bigger, but it still saved fuel. It was spacious and comfortable, had more space inside, was smooth, felt better on the road, and had a powerful but quiet engine. Was reliable, safe, and long-lasting cheap luxury. People who purchased the Accord never stopped talking about it, saying things like, "I've driven my Accord across the country for 10 years, and it still runs like new. My dad had one. And I have one too." It became a trusted name, a car that represented quality, trust, and wise choices. If the Civic was Honda's opening act, the Accord was the standing ovation. It showed the world that Honda wasn't just lucky but smart, consistent, and deeply connected to what people really needed. Let me tell you something amazing. Soichiro Honda didn't act like a typical boss. He didn't sit in a fancy chair and give orders. Instead, he worked alongside his employees rather than above them. He once said, "A company is not a machine, it is a collection of people. If you take care of your people, they will take care of your customers." He treated every employee with respect, whether they were engineers or cleaners, and he didn't punish anyone for trying something new at Honda. Was urged to think, innovate, and speak up. This culture set Honda apart from all other companies because people buy what the machine means to them, not just the machine. For example, a father buys a bike to take his son to school. A young woman uses her own money to buy her first car and sobs while sitting in the driver's seat, Or a man loses his job but keeps his old Honda running while looking for the next opportunity. These stories are about dreams, not about engines and tires, and Honda became a brand of tales of life's journeys, and that's how Honda continued to win hearts. With loud marketing but with quiet trust, but the road wasn't always easy. Honda also had to close factories that didn't sell models. But they never stopped because failure was respected rather than feared. Let's take a look at one example, the introduction of the first luxury car in America, the Acura brand. Honda had already established itself as a reliable name for economy cars, but now it wanted to enter the luxury market, which was a risky move that put it in competition with other brands like BMW, Mercedes, Lexus, and so on. People said that Honda couldn't provide luxury, it was only for middle-class people. However, Honda responded by launching the Acura Legend, which was smooth, quiet, powerful, beautifully designed, and successful. Acura became the first successful Japanese luxury brand in America. At the same time, Honda was rising to the top of the motorcycle industry in nations like India, where people said, if you want a bike that never dies, buy a Honda. Farmers, students, delivery workers, and everyone else trusted Honda motorcycles. Models like the CD100, Shine, and Unicorn became well known, but Honda wanted to give back to the planet. As pollution levels rose and the future changed, the company started working on green technology, developing hybrid engines, cleaner fuel, better batteries, and eventually electric vehicles. While other companies were still considering these options, Honda had already begun. Let's start in a quiet area in one of Honda's futuristic research labs in Japan. There are no roaring engines, just soft footsteps and quiet conversations. Honda was dreaming beyond roads after becoming a global success in bikes and cars. Honda asked the bold question: what if we can fly not just with airplanes, not just with machines, but with hope, with technology that touches the sky? And suddenly a new chapter began, Honda Aircraft Company. You see, when Honda started designing a jet, the world laughed again. These are not ordinary workers, they are dream builders. They are not working on tires or seats, they are working on dreams that fly. The engineers worked day and night for 30 years without stopping, testing, reworking, redesigning, and taking no shortcuts. The first test flight of the Honda Jet was a revolution. It was not just an airplane, it had engines placed above the wings, a rare design that people said wouldn't fly, but it did, and it flew better than anyone expected. It was faster, quieter, and more efficient. They are good with bikes and small cars, but jets aren't toys, they're aviation. Imagine that a company that started out fixing bicycles for a man who failed in school and business has now created a machine that flies in the sky above clouds, above doubt, and above fear. This isn't just business, it's human achievement. However, Honda did not stop there. It looked ahead to the future and asked, what do humans really need in the next century? 50 years? The answer wasn't speed, it wasn't power, it was care. As the world ages, people are living longer, but they still need support and love. So Honda looked toward new robots, not scary, cold machines. but gentle, kind, intelligent robots that could help the elderly, support children, and help the disabled. As a result, Honda created something amazing, Asimo. The most advanced humanoid robot in the world at the time. It was a small, white robot that looked like a child in a space suit, but it could walk, talk, run, climb stairs, wave hello, carry objects, and comprehend voice commands. People wept when they saw it, and kids reached out to touch its hands. It wasn't just a robot, it was a symbol of hope. A vision of a future in which machines support us rather than replace us. However, Honda wasn't finished yet. It began investing in hydrogen fuel technology. Envisioning cars that only emit water and not pollution, and it created electric vehicles, smart navigation AI systems, safety features, and even self-driving technology. It also worked on walking assistance devices for stroke patients and solar energy systems for clean homes. In all of these dreams, there was one thing in common. The secret he taught us is that it's okay. Honda believed that technology should serve humanity, not control it, and that progress is only real when it brings peace, health, and hope. Let's now examine what makes Honda truly unforgettable. Is it the cars, the jets, or the robots? No, it's the philosophy. Eero Honda once said, "Success represents 1% of your work," which results from the 99% that is called failure. Honda is proof that regular people can accomplish extraordinary things. It's proof that your background doesn't matter, only your beliefs do. So, where does the story go from here? Well, you're reading this last chapter, and it's no longer Honda's story. You will fall, cry, be rejected, and be misunderstood, but as long as you don't give up. As long as you get back up after falling, and as long as you believe in your dream more than the world believes in your failure, you are the dreamer, the creator, and the next chapter of your story. Ask yourself what dream you have in your head, what idea you are hiding out of fear, and what gift you are holding in your hands. If a young Japanese boy can go from working in a bicycle repair shop to touching the sky, can you remember that all you need is courage to start? You don't need wealthy parents, fame, or followers. All you need is the courage to try failing and then try again so you can be laughed at. I will not die with my dream inside me. That is the true ending of this story. Not in a book or on a screen, but in your life, because you are a burning fire, my friend. Let it rise, let it shine, let it fly like a Honda jet above every limit, above every doubt. Above everything the world said you couldn't do. So today, close this story with all your heart, get up from your chair, and whisper these words to yourself. Since the road belongs to those who dare to drive it, thank you for reading, and now go live your dream.